Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Effective Resume Thursday. It's September 7th, 2023. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the Zoom recording. For those people on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just enter them in the chat window. For those watching on Facebook, you can enter any questions you've got into the comment field. We are monitoring both feeds. We'll be sure to get any question you have answered for you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Oh, let me see here. I think I missed a slide. Let me go back here. Oh, I sure did here. Let's see. Let me back up one slide here. Here we go. We will have time to review one or two resumes today live. You can submit your resume using the chat box. So look for that little piece of paper in the very bottom chat box. Send it to me, Jeff Morris host, not Jeff Morris co-host. Send it to the Jeff Morris host account. And I will be glad. We will take a look at your resume at the end. I would recommend that you delete your header information because your information will be on Facebook and YouTube as long as electrons float around this earth we've got going on here. So if you'd like us to do that, we'll be glad to do that and take a look at it at the end of this session. All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those who are unemployed in Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon for 15 bucks, or if you see me in person, I always have them for $10 a piece. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. We've got a great presentation coming up tomorrow morning at the end, and I'll tell you about that at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the Practice Interview Team, which is also known as the PIC Crew. Remember, your resume, your LinkedIn profile, they don't get you a job. What they will get you is an interview. How well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's going to get you your next job. All right, so here's our agenda this morning. Let me switch presentations and we will get started here. Let's see here. Let's go there. Let's go there. And let's bring this one up. All right, oops. It was set. Oh, bummer. I closed it by mistake. All right, hold on a second. And sorry about this. Here we go. Now we've got. All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about the applicant tracking system. We're going to talk about a one-page bio. We're going to talk about a master resume. We're going to talk about the key components of a resume. And then we'll, for part two, if anybody has any resumes they'd like us to share, we'll be glad to take a look at your resume. All right. Let's see here. All right. Well, I'd like to start out with a little funny cartoon here. Take a second, take a look. You do want your resume to be the one they remember because you want them to call you up. You want to be able to have that phone call with them to get you in for an interview. So how do you make your resume rememberable? And we're going to talk about that today. All right, so first we're going to do is we're going to talk about some basic resume rules that will put you ahead of the competition. This is from Judy Porick. She's a manager in Career Connect at the Muse. It's a website for career research. So these were some of her top 10 tips that she wanted to share. So number one, you've got to avoid spelling and grammar errors. Remember, when they're looking for resumes, they may have 300 resumes in there. They've come into their inbox. They're looking to weed you out. They want to put you in the yes, maybe, or no pile. And most of you go into the no pile because they don't see the connection. Any spelling mistakes, any grammatical errors, boom, they're going to put you in the no pile. You've got to be sure to watch your tenses. We're going to talk more about that in just a moment, about past tense, present tense. So we'll talk about that shortly. She recommends you send your resume as a PDF. And the reason being is that when you send a resume as a PDF, it will show up to the reader exactly the way you have it laid out and formatted. I did an experiment with my North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group several years ago. I had about 30 different people send me their resume. The only 2 resumes that looked exactly like they thought they would look were the 2 people who sent them as a PDF, because my printer is a little bit different than your printer. And every printer is going to make the formatting and if they send them as a Word document, it's going to make things look a little bit different. So when possible, you should send your resume as a PDF. You've got to make sure your resume is easy to read. You've got to quantify as much as possible. The easy to read bit is white space is good. No more than 3 lines as a paragraph. You want to keep things really, really close. So just sort of be aware of that. When you quantify, it's giving results. What's that result? That is the key here. Name drop and title drop. If you know somebody who works at a company that you've applied to, in your cover letter or in your email, mention that I happen to know this person. You know, if you can do something to make the awareness of somebody in the HR department, that's always a benefit. You've got to be sure to use your judgment when it comes to creativity. You don't want them to be too creative because, you know, you've got to make sure that they're used to seeing resumes in a certain format. And when they're not done that way, it sometimes really confuses people. Don't list everything you've ever done. We'll talk about that. You probably want to have a section called prior relevant experience, because all you need to do is mention past jobs and companies and job titles. You don't need to mention any bullet points of what you've done, but at least that gives you the opportunity to talk about what it is you've done. You want to be thinking about the person reading your resume. And what Jody means here is that there's a really good chance if somebody's looking at all these resumes, they could be somebody fresh out of college. They may not know what a project manager does or a program manager or, some of these roles. They just have this job description and they said, find me 10 people who fit this role. They plug in, they find the top 10 that they think match. What is it that you're doing to make it easy for them to read it? Do you have the same wording? Do you have the same keywords? Make it easy. If you're trying to make somebody interpret your resume, it's never going to work. And then 10, think about the specific job you're applying to. Once again, it's getting those keywords and matches in. All right, so let's talk about a resume versus a one-page bio. A resume signals, help me, help me, help me, I'm looking for a job. Help me, I need to find something. But a one-page bio can be used in lots of different situations. It's a great networking tool. It is a document that I would always send before I ever send my resume. I know there's a couple people who have told me that they never send a resume until they've had a phone call to know what they're looking for, so the resume can be customized to what they're really, really looking for. Your resume focuses on work history and details in your credentials. A bio focuses on your major accomplishments and your expertise, who you are and what you do, how you can help a company. You're not listing all the little nitty-gritty things, lots of different bullet points, lots of different possible star stories there. A resume is primarily a job search tool. A bio is a multi-purpose tool because you can use it in lots of different situations. So here's one sample of a one-page bio. You can see your bio has your picture on it. Okay, so you're going to show people who you are. You're going to have your contact information. You're going to have a brief paragraph about who your background is, and you're going to have some professional achievements and successes. and you list your education. So there's one format. You can mix it up. There's tons of different ways to do this. Here's a different one. Now, the primary difference between these two is that over on the right-hand side, you see a column that says target functions and target companies. You've got to be very careful about sending this one out. You can send this out to your contacts that don't work at any one of these companies because you're trying to find contacts. But let's say you send this to somebody who happens to work at Coca-Cola, and they're going to go, oh, well, I see you've got PepsiCo listed as your #1 target company. How come you don't have Coca-Cola listed? So be very careful. This is a great way that it can really sort of mess you up. So I tell you to be careful about that. There's a great book. I highly recommend it. I think it's one book that everybody needs to have. It's called Be Sharp. Now, this is the second edition you want to get. If you get it on Amazon, it's like 17, 18 bucks, if I'm not mistaken. Written by Minna Brown and Paul Asanoff. Minna Brown, both these people, Minna Brown talks about the one-page bio. This sample bio, this is her sample bio, but it's more of an ad slick because she's an executive coach. She's a coach trainer. She's a public speaker, so she uses this for different things. You can't really read the text on it in the gray box. Those are some things that people have said all about her. Things on the right are things she's done. So her contact information is at the very bottom. So there's all sorts of different ways to do this. But I highly recommend the book. You can also just Google bios on Google and find different samples that are out there of what's going to be effective, what may look good for you. All right, so let's talk about a master resume now. Your master resume. So one of the things I think about in your job search, if you're starting out your job search, the first thing you've got to do is get your resume put together. And by what I mean by resume is you need your master resume because you need to be able to help you. You need to have all this information ready to go to make it simple and as easy as you can. So by doing this, you collect everything you've done since college, since high school. You put all the contacts information, supervisor's name, address of the company, 8, 10, 12 bullet points, successes that you had at every job. Be sure to include all your areas of expertise, any certificates that you've got, all your software that you've ever dealt with over that time. Now, yeah, a lot of that software from 20 years ago may be obsolete, but at least you list it because you never know what may be of interest. Then when you see a job description, you take this master resume, you then save it as however you save for when you apply for jobs, and you delete everything that's not in the job description because you're trying to make that match. You want to make it easy for them to go, yeah, this is who I'm looking for. Oh yeah, they've got all the keywords in there, okay? So by creating a master resume, you don't have to go to, oh yeah, I did that 12 years ago. Let me think what I did. What was it called? You know, get it all together. So if you do that first in your job search, you're then ready to go because you don't have to think about it in the future. So the characteristics of a good resume, the main goal here is to make it easy for the applicant tracking system or a job screener to determine that you're a good match for the job. How are you going to do that? Well, number one, formatting. You want to make sure the format's easy. We're going to go over a good basic format that we have that I like to use that we want to share with people. Number two is the overall length. Okay, so there's a couple of options here for overall length. So how many years do you go back? Most resumes are 1 to 2 pages. You know, if you're, recently graduate, maybe you've only been out of work been working for 5 or 6 years, 1 page, you probably can get it on. If you've been, working more than 10 years, maybe 2 pages. On occasion, you can maybe go 3 pages because people don't print out resumes anymore. They just scan it on a computer, so they don't realize they're in the page 3 usually, as long as the information is pertinent. So when we talk about the number of years it should be on your resume, you've got 3 options here. So if you will, in the chat window, please put down how many, what you think. For option A, should you show all your experience on your resume? Option B, show only the most recent 10 to 15 years. Option C, just show the most recent 10 to 15 plus a section called prior relevant experience. So if you will, in the chat window, put in A, B, or C. For those on Facebook, you can do the same thing. While we're doing this, Anzo, I've got Anzo, you sent me your resume. Can you send it to the other Jeff Morris? You sent it to the co-host, not the host, and it will be a difference on here. So if you can select the other one, that would be good. That would be preferred. So that way I can get to it really easy. Thank you. All right. So there you go, Anzo. Thank you very much. All right. So we had mostly B's and C's. So only, there's no right or wrong answer with this, okay? There's no right or wrong resume. There's no right or wrong LinkedIn profile. In the career search business, you do whatever you feel comfortable with and whatever you feel good about. Let me just share some times. Sometimes you do need to show all of your experience. If you're applying for a job at a university, a college, or a government job, they want to know everything. They want to know all the details, everything. If you're working in most other jobs, though, they don't want to see everything. They just want to know what's pertinent to what you've done. So by only showing the most recent 10 to 15 years, that's fine. But the problem with that is, if you have a star story from a job you did more than 15 years ago, and you say, well, back when I worked at Chrysler, I did blah, blah, blah. And they're looking, and the interviewer's looking on the resume going, I don't see Chrysler listed anywhere. When did you do that? Okay. That causes a problem, because that means like did you not tell me everything? What else is missing on your resume? So personally, I like C, the most recent 10 to 15 years, and then a simple section that says prior relevant experience. And when you do that, you can now talk about something that you've done. And we'll show you that when we get to our sample resume here in just a second. Let me download this resume here. Give me just a second. All right. Thank you, Anzo, for sending your resume. Okay. Enzo. Okay. Sorry. So those are my things. I really prefer C. I think that's the way to go. Okay. Let's talk about fonts on your resume. You don't want your fonts to be too fancy. You want it easy to read. I personally like Arial, Calibri, Tacoma, or Helvetica, because it's a very plain, clean, easy font to read. Okay, 10 to 12 points, no 8 or 9 point fonts. My daughter uses a really small font. It's like, some of us are a little older than, 30 years old. Tell me, make it easy for me. So I think, 10 to 12 point fonts for Helvetica, Tacoma, Calibri, and Arial. A couple fonts I do not like: Times New Roman, Garamond, Cambria. So you can see here the difference between the bottom three fonts is that they've got these little serifs on it. It makes it more complicated to read. It looks great on a official document. It looks great on, if you're doing a certificate for somebody. But for your resume, keep it plain and simple. Once again, more white space is good. No fancy fonts, no wingdings, no little telephones or houses or any other little characters. It's not really going to work really well. Your margins, you want margins to be 1 inch top, bottom, right, and left, because you want white space on your resume. If your resume gets selected, it usually gets printed out when it's given to the hiring manager, because they take them home, maybe read them at nighttime. They want to be putting notes on them. Okay, so leave white space. I've seen resumes that pack in so much text from right to left, top to bottom. There's no white space. It's all text. And you know what? That resume is not easy to read. It's not a pleasure to read. Bullets, stick with the bullet you see here, the little dot. That's the only bullet you should be using on a resume. No arrows, no triangles, nothing else that, you've got lots of options for those. Stick with the bullet. You can't go wrong. You can use a little bit of bolding. You can use a little bit of underlining or even a little bit of italicized, being texted as italicized, but not a lot. Bolding is probably the most common that you'll see, and you'll see that on our sample resume. We'll show you just a second. Do not use any text boxes, no headers, no templates, no footers, no shadows, no graphics, because a lot of ATS systems can't read it. Okay, now on your pretty resume that you maybe hand deliver, you could put a little something on there, but there are well over 300 different applicant tracking systems out there. If you have something in the header or footer, some systems don't read that information. You could have the perfect resume, and I've heard from recruiters that go, yeah, that person applied, perfect resume, but I can't contact them because they must have put their information in a header, it didn't come across, it won't pull that information. So just make sure that it's stripped out to make it easy. Okay, how do you fill a gap? Let's say you've haven't been working for a couple of years. COVID knocked a lot of people off of what they could do. What are some options that you can do? So you can put a job title that says community leadership if you've been volunteering. You can do something called consulting. You can do something called continuing education if you went back and got several different certificates, or even just continuing education. I went back to get my MBA or something. You can put that down there, and it shows how to fill a gap. Then you want to put a couple bullet points that describes your work. Consulting work you've done, even if it's pro bono for a nonprofit, you can list that. If you've got any volunteer work leadership, or you've been leading, when you go to volunteer, if it's some kind of leadership role, something you helped organize, list that. Any certificates that you've got while you've been out, list those kinds of things. So here's what it looks like on the resume. We've got our sample resume here. Community leadership and consulting, served as a panelist and a coach for the Dallas practice interview team to help job seekers with their interview skills. Provided consulting services to a local nonprofit organization on how to prepare to conduct job interviews and how to evaluate job candidates. Now, this local nonprofit organization happened to be her church. But she won't list her church because what if you don't believe in the church that she belongs to? Or what if you have some issues with that? So just list a local nonprofit organization. That way you're not, people won't get all, if they got any little biases or whatever, you reduce those biases. All right, let's talk about the key components of resume. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty now. A resume has to have a header, a summary, a key accomplishment area, which is optional. You'll use this if you're in sales. Your professional experience, a section called previous relevant experience. If you want to use it, I recommend you do. Your education and your software skills. You do not need to put your education at the very top. You do not need to list your software skills at the very top, but sometimes you may want to list them twice, and I'll show you in just a second what I mean by that. So in your header, you want your name, you want your contact information. Use the name you'd like to be called, okay? And let's say you have an unusual first name or an unusual last name that people mispronounce occasionally. In parentheses, put it in there phonetically. Make it easy for somebody to pick up a resume and go, oh, okay, oh, here's how to pronounce his name. Great, I'm glad he provided that. It was really made it easy. You do not need a physical street address, not important. On a job application, you do, but here you're just putting it on here to tell people that you live in the community that the job is being posted in. You want your email address, you want your LinkedIn address. You want to remove the hyperlinks. When you in Microsoft Word, when I think in if you're using Pages on an Apple Pro product, when you type in your email address and as soon as you hit space, it turns it blue and underlines it. You don't want to do that because once again, some ATS systems cannot handle that. You don't need to type LinkedIn : and then put the information. Just put, LinkedIn /n/ whatever your code is, so that people can copy that, paste it into a browser to do that. The reason you don't want those underlines is because, let's say you have a Gmail account, and many of us do, that G goes down below and would cross the line. Well, there's a chance that the ATS system won't be able to read that G and won't know how to interpret that. So by removing those hyperlinks, you've made it easy for all the ATS systems to work. All right, the next section is a summary profile. Now, this is not an objective. It's not what you're looking for. This is how you can help them. In this case, this person's applying as a business analyst. I always recommend you put the job title right up there in the middle and the center, make it bold, make it a little bit bigger so that it stands out if this is a job title you've done in the past. And then talk about it. And then you do a couple lines about the job that tells people what it is you've done, what areas you work in. No more than 3 lines. People do not read a block of text. They scan this. So as their eyes are scanning through, you're just quickly putting down, just something to sort of get their attention to make them want to read more. Okay, you've got to modify this for each application because you're taking the keywords from the job application, from the job description, and putting them into this section. All right, let's talk about areas, the areas of expertise. You can have I say 3 columns of 3. 9 maximum. You don't need 12 or 15. It's too many. And what's important is if I interview you, I'm going to say, so tell me, what are the 3 areas you're best in? It better be the top 3 or the 3 on the very left. Okay. Don't tell me that you're good at improving processes, user interface, and developing test plans, because I'm gonna go, well, why didn't you put it at the very, very top? Okay. You should be pulling this information from the job description. All right. If you're in sales, you probably want to have a section called key accomplishments, what you've done. Now, this is great for a salesperson, but the problem with this is I want to know where you did this at. So this sort of, to me, means you've got to list this again in your experience section under each job. Okay, so the good point is you're getting them all up front for somebody to read. Hopefully they're going to go, yeah, I need somebody who can achieve 120% of my goal. But you also want to make sure that you tell me where you did this at by putting it in your experience section. All right, in your professional experience section, number 1, it's got to be chronological. People do not like functional resumes. Okay, so please keep it, as a functional in order. Most current, previous. You've got to use parallel verbs. Now, we talked about this earlier. Jody said this is one of her top 10 things that she wants you to think about. In parallel verbs, what we're talking about is for a current job, I have them those underlined in red: analyze, ensure, serve. So those are current things that have been done. Now, there is one past tense there. They achieved a 50% improvement, but this could have been for something they did a couple years ago. All right. But notice here in company B, all the items are past tense. This is enough to get you cut out. So you never, ever know what it's going to be. So please be sure to check, make sure your tenses are correct. You probably want to include a one-line description of the company. I think it really helps people. There are millions of companies out there. We don't know them all. Listen, I've been doing this for 15 years now, 15 years. And when people give me companies that they're interested in applying to, it's like, I've never heard of that company. Where did that company come from? So just sort of be aware of that you we keep, put a one-line description to make it easy. Limit the number of bullet points you have. I think 5 is probably all you need to have. 5 or 6 of the most current job, but once again, keep it related to what's in the job description. And you've got to make sure that you're focusing on results. Very, very, very important. Tell me what you did resulting in, and then the answer. Okay? What you did resulting in and the answer. That's the way your bullet points, I think, should be written, because it's going to be impactful and you're giving me what you've done. You're in your professional experience. I'm getting into the details. 5 to 6 bullet points per job. They've got to focus on results. Your bullet points should not sound like a job description. I read so many resumes and it's like, okay, so this looks like a job description, but what did they really do? Is this what they did? So how successful were they in doing this? I need to hire somebody who can, improve processes, who can sell more items, who can ship things correctly, who can reduce errors, who can come up with new concepts. Show me you can do that in your resume, and I'm going to hire you. All right, so one of the problems we tend to see, on the foot is, and I call this a so what game, is that if your bullet point, for every bullet point on your resume, read it and then say, so what? For example, guided the next phase of brand evolution for a multimedia artist and managed film production and publishing. So you didn't tell me resulting in anything, so I don't really know. We asked, well, so what? Well, this increased the business opportunities, which led to 10 new commissions for my client. Okay. Now we have a result. So let's rewrite the line to say increased business opportunities, including 10 new commissions for my client based on developing a full social media and PR strategy. This makes it easy for me to go, this is what you did, and this were the results of what you did. All right, what happens if you've had multiple roles at one company? What do you do? Okay, this is the format I think you've got to use. Number one, you want to list the company name once with the full range of dates. So this person worked at this company B for two different jobs from 2010 to 2014. And then they put the dates for each role in parentheses. If they had put these dates right justified along with that red arrow is, it sort of could have made them look like a job hopper. I worked at one company for 13 years. I had 6 different jobs over those 13 years. If I'd put all those dates over on the right-hand side, somebody would have gone, oh, wait, they jumped. They're no long-term at one job. Here, they now showing that they did all this in one, at one job. So this is what I highly recommend you do. All right, what happens if companies change names? I'm sure every company, I know I've worked for companies and the names have changed. So you've got a couple options. Number one, list the current company followed by the old name, or you can give the old name of the company with the date of the merger or acquisition. All right. We had a gentleman once who was on this call, and he said, yeah, I work for A company, and yeah, it just recently got bought out by B company. So I've never heard of that. What do y'all do? Oh, well, we used to be this Campbell Soup company. I said, well, you want to list Campbell Soup because we all know what Campbell Soup is. We don't know what these other names that they're now calling the corporation. So you'd want to put down Campbell Soup acquired by XYZ Corporation and whatever the date is. All right, education and software skills. List your degrees. Degree, what the major was, as name of the school, city, and state. And then list your software skills. And these software skills should be coming from the job description. You can have more software skills than what's in the job description, but at least put down things that they're requiring. And so let's say you don't have Visual Studio experience, okay, and that's in the job description. You could put down, you could list Canva, then in parentheses, similar to Visual Studio. List a program that you use that's like the program, and because by listing that name of that company, you then keyword matched of what they're looking for. If you don't have a degree, write something like this: the school, the city, state, major, or area of concentration, and that you've got 80 hours. You can put on here expected graduation in fall of 2024. But don't lie on your resume about your education. Remember, there was that football coach up at Notre Dame. He got hired. 2 weeks later, he got fired because he had misrepresented something about his education on his resume. So, tell the truth. All right, so what we're going to do now is I want to show you a job description on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, a resume on the right-hand side. We've shortened the resume down just so we can sort of get it all to fit on one page, because I can't really look at 2 pages here. So what I've gone through and done, I took this job application on the left, highlighted in yellow what I think are the important things that I think they want to know about. I then take my resume and I make sure those things appear in my resume. So for instance, they're looking for a business analyst. I make sure I put business analyst down as my job title. I listed in my opening summary statement about that I'm an innovative business analyst. They want to know about business requirements. Make sure that's there. Improve processes, cross-functional, agile, Scrum, Visual Studio. So we're putting all those items in there so that we can make sure that they match with what they're looking for. Multiple sources, user manuals, getting all those things moved in there to make it easy. Business process flow charts. So everything you highlight, everything you think is important, you want to make sure is over in your resume, because that's what's going to match. That's what's going to make this connect. So remember, keywords are very, very important. Once again, you're trying to match. And this is true with LinkedIn too. We haven't talked, LinkedIn's a Tuesday workshops, but that's an applicant tracking system. That's what LinkedIn is. Somebody types in, I'm looking for a business analyst and I need somebody who's got these 3 skills. Boom, up pops those people on LinkedIn that qualify. Now, the ranking of how they rank them is all different, but that's a call for Tuesday. You got to remember, resumes are scanned. They're not read. Resumes, if they spend 7 to 10 seconds on your resume, the initial screening, that's all they're going to do. Now, the hiring manager will maybe take a couple minutes to look over your resume and go, yeah, I want to talk to this person. But the initial screen, 5 to 7 to 10 seconds is all it is, because they're just looking yes, maybe, or no. That's what they're trying to do. And quite frankly, they're looking for a lot more no's, because they know that people apply and they haven't modified their resume. As I said, a resume will not get you a job. It only gets you a phone call. So how well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's very, very important. And you never know why they called. So please ask them. Very, very important. When you get that phone call, hey, thanks for calling. I really appreciate it. So what was it about my resume, or what was it about my LinkedIn profile that made you pick up the phone to reach out? When you ask something like that, you know what's important. It could have been something on page 2 at the very bottom that happened to, that they wanted to reach out and talk to you about. I know a gentleman on his resume, the very bottom, the very, very last line, it said, in search of the perfect hamburger. And he said, you would not believe the number of people would call me up just to talk about a hamburger. Didn't get a job, but I got a phone call. And you never know how well your interviewing skills are going to get you that next job. So before we take a look at a resume, if anybody has any questions, if you got any questions, you're welcome to ask away. Otherwise, we will get into looking at, we've got one person who's sent their resume in. Any questions from anybody? All right, let me click here. We will get a resume up and going. All right, I'm gonna see. I'm actually going to use your Word document. I mean, you sent me a Word document and a You sent me a Word document and a PDF, and I'm going to use the Word document because I think it's a little bit clearer. So let's see here. Give me a second. And I just got rid of his header information because I didn't want, let's see, whoops, here we go, view page width. All right, so I got rid of his header information so people wouldn't see it on here. Let's see here, give me a second, get things moved around. All right, so everybody's looking at his thing here, experience section. All right, so first, the first thing that stands out here is that you're using Times New Roman. So personally, I think there's a better font to use. Let's see what happens. Control A. I'm just going to move this all to, let's use Calibri. So which do you think is a little bit easier to read? Which one's, it's easier on the eye to see one or the other? So here's one. No. Here's the other. We may put it back to this. Personally, I like Calibri. I think that's great. I think it's just cleaner. It's a little bit easier to read. Slide this out of the way. Nice size margins. It's got 1-inch margins. I'm not sure you need to put down November and April. I think on your resume, personally, I would just go 2022 to 2023 because you only really did 2 months in 2022. You only really did it for 5 months. That's going to look like a short-term job. May not necessarily work there. So I would just be really careful about, I would, in this case, I think by using 2022 to 2023, it would look better, make it look a little bit longer. Utility Incorporated. Give me a one-line sentence of what this company is. Tell me what it is they do so I have an idea, because I've never heard of this company before. All right, you spearheaded data analytics, first responders, you applied data mining. So you sort of told me what you did. So here now, as you leverage SageMaker. Great. All right, so now here you're giving me a result. And you don't really, once again, read the bullet point and say, so what? Or tell me what you did, resulting in, and give me a result so I know why, what's going to make this look really, really good. I put an extra line, I think, in between here. Just give it an extra line just to break it up just a tad. Once again, make sure all your dates, and this could have been because I messed it up using the word, using when I changed it over, it may not have done that. I would go 2021 to 2022. I think that works great. Once again, we all know what Raytheon is, but you may want to just put down a one line, just who is the company. You achieved exceptional plan. Okay, so this tells me, this gives me some, this tells me what it is you've done. Do I need somebody who can do what you do? Maybe. Let's see here. Graduate teaching assistant, you've got that on here, great. Education, perfect. You don't really need to do that. Well, I don't think you really need to put that on there anymore. I guess, in your case, it's really, you did a great, let me move it down to another page. You got a really good GPA, and you've got here cum laude. I think that's great to be able to tell people. That's perfect. Title thesis, that's fine, always good to include. So publications, these are things you've done. Your areas of expertise. Great to put this on here. Like that. Honors and recognition. I'm not sure how much. I'm sure by me changing the font, I messed up your dates and stuff. But you know, I don't know if this makes a difference anymore with businesses. It may not. Other. I mean, the fact you've only been out of work for 3 years, I mean, you've only been out of college for 3 years, it's probably worth keeping it on there for now. It's always good to put this on here. It's always good to have this on here. It's a nice little add-on to put on, so it's fine. So, you know, overall, I think your resume is great. What I would just change, I think the dates a little bit, and I would give me more results, give me more details as far as what it is you've done to make it to tell me this is what you were supposed to do and what did it result in? How did you save time? How did you save money? How did you save quantity? How do you increase product, you know, whatever the percentages are, give me something like that. But I don't have those numbers. Well, nobody's going to call and check. I've never had a company call up and say, "Oh, I'd like to hear, you know, Jane Doe says that used to work here. Can you confirm they work here?" Yeah. Well, they said on here that they increase their productivity by 14%. Is that accurate? Nobody ever does that. Okay. So just estimate what the percentages are, estimate the dollar savings that you've done to make things work a little bit easier. All right. Any questions? Anything else I can answer for anybody? Questions, comments? So Enzo, I know I really recommend, you know, change your font, give me some more results. I think that'll make a big, big difference. You know, so he's asking, do I leave my GPA on there or take it off? You know, you've only been out for 3 years. I think you can leave it on, you know, but in 4 or 5 years, I think I'd maybe take it off. Because I don't think it's important. But you know, so you're only a couple of years out of college. I think I'd leave it on for right now, especially it's worth doing. Any other questions or comments from anybody? Okay, the one thing I have not done is I have not included any of my documents for everybody. So let me go and load up a few documents that I think everybody may want to would be helpful. There's one, let's see here, 2, 3, 4. So I just loaded a few documents on there as sample. The first 2 are some sample bios. The first one's a sample resume, a couple key cover letters that you may be interested in using. So that information's there. You can download it by just clicking on the little icon, but just remember where you save it to your computer. Because I save stuff all the time. It's like, oh man, where did it go? So be sure to know where you're saving your documents as they download. All right. All right, let me share a few more slides. We will get out of here. If for some reason you were not able to download or not able to capture this information or get the resume, a T cover letter, or whatever, just send me an email to resume@careerdfw.org. And especially for those people on Facebook, you can just send me an email and let me know you need the resume package, and I will be sure to get that information to you. Career DFW Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us tomorrow morning at the North Dallas Planner Career Focus Group meeting. Headshots, how to make a great first and lasting impression. Paula Asanoff is part of, she and Minna Brown both wrote the Be Sharp book. And Paula's expertise is more in what a good picture looks like, what you should be doing. She'll talk about all that tomorrow. It's a really great presentation, so come join us tomorrow, 9:30 in the morning. If you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, come join us in person. But if you live outside the DFW area, you can join us on Zoom or Facebook Live. Next Tuesday, for LinkedIn Tuesday, our presentation will be with Kurt Vondermatter, talking about LinkedIn from a recruiter's eye. Kurt spends the big bucks for the full-blown recruiting package on LinkedIn, and he will show us what it looks like. So if you want to see what he's looking for to find you, join us next week. Next Wednesday, the practice interview team will be meeting online. You'll be able to watch a real practice interview. So join us. We will be on Zoom only. There'll be no Facebook available. Join us on Zoom only because the event will not be recorded. The recording is only for the interviewee candidate. So come join us. It's really great. Yesterday we had a real practice. We had 2 real practice interviews live. We had 20 people come to the session. So we had 12 or 14 people just watching 2 different people being interviewed. And it really, I think, was beneficial for everybody who was there. Next Thursday, being the second Thursday of the month, we're going to talk all about networking. We have a different speaker every week who shares their thoughts on networking. Networking is where 70 to 80% of jobs are found. Reaching out to other people. Applying online isn't going to get you a job. You've got to network. How do you do it? Join us next Thursday for that. This session has been recorded. You will be able to find it on the Career DFW Facebook page or the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, just click on playlist. And then when you do that, pick one of the 7 different playlists. I have over 540 different videos up currently. But if you click on playlist and then go down to view full playlist, up will come a list of all the different speakers, dates, and topics, and you can go back and find all those in that particular genre. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops and you'd like to join the Career USA mailing list, grab your camera, take a screenshot of this or take a shot of that QR code, and it will start a generic email. Just hit send, or you can send an email to careerusa+subscribe@groups.io. You'll never be spammed, but what you will get is the topic of the day, the title of the day, and most importantly, the Zoom link of the day. Please remember, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. Everything I've done over the last 15 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So, just please think about how you can help others and how you can give back to people. So thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. Have a great Thursday, and I hope to see everybody tomorrow morning.